Well, good evening everybody. Welcome to you all, and especially to those who come from a great distance. East Sussex, Portsmouth, Hyde, and especially to Brian and Roger who come from Brian from Plymouth, Roger from Liverpool. It's a great pleasure to have you here, all of you here tonight. For any newcomers, I ought to tell you that we are not a political party. We do not take lists of names or addresses or write minutes, and although if you wish to join us, as I hope you will, you can leave your email address. There's a clipboard over there and one at the back on the tables there, or telephone, or leave your telephone number if you haven't an email address. We are what you might call the alternative press. The British Constitution Group aims to give you information on many subjects kept from you by the BBC, which, as a friend of mine so aptly describes as nobbled.
First of all, thank you all very much for coming. It's nice to see a lot of faces. Some of you I know, some of you I know by name, some of you are recognised, and some of you I don't know. But you'll have to put up with me because I've now got to the stage, and Roger Hayes, who's also with me, we've got to the stage now where we meet so many people that it can get really difficult. And some people look like other people, and most people are called Mike, apparently. So I get a lot of calls, and the voice says I'm Mike, and then you say, which Mike is that? And they say, it's Mike from Sheffield, and I say, there's 4 up there, which one are you? Okay, so if we look a bit vague when you say, you know, you've met us before, it's simply the number of people. Roger, just stand up if you will. Roger Hayes is with me tonight because he's been down. Brilliant. Roger's been coming down to Plymouth for 1 week each month, which gives us a chance to have a good chat. If you don't know him, he's chairman of the British Constitution Group, and he was the man who thought the state of the judicial system was so bad that we should go and arrest a judge. If you haven't seen the little video clip on Birkenhead, just put Birkenhead arrest judge into Google and you'll come up with a film clip. And what I would say to anybody who's wondering what they've come to tonight, because I've talked about arresting judges, the best thing about that film clip is 600 people on the streets, 600 people, and absolutely no trouble. People laughing and joking with the police and talking to them. And this was a proper demonstration. So if you want to know what we're about, and British Constitution Group and Lawful Rebellion, it's about getting out there and doing things, but we don't need violence. It's a very important thing. Let me just take my watch off, which is a bit noisy. So I'm going to start. Roger's then going to talk about some of the things he's working on. And we're going to say to you, perhaps unusually, because I often talk about serious stuff all the time, we are feeling quite upbeat at the moment because it's clear that things are beginning to happen. The other side's doing things, but people are waking up. If you go and give a talk, if you're in a queue and you're perhaps gently talking about the banks, people join in the conversation. They know something's wrong. You can talk to people and they say, well, my son or my daughter doesn't have a job, or they've lost a job, or a relative's lost a job. So people are beginning to hurt with what's happening in the system. And we're watching the gas and electric prices go up. And at the same time, they're talking about the coldest, you know, a very cold October. So we're starting to see people come under pressure. This is going to increase. But I'm pleased to say that as that pressure's coming on, we're starting to see a bit of proper British spirit. So people are beginning to react. And it had to happen. We had to see people put under pressure before they'd wake up. Now, I don't often cheat, but I've cheated a bit tonight because it's been a very busy week. And what I wanted to do was give you a talk. We're going to keep it very relaxed, and I prefer questions at the end. But if there's a desperate one in the middle of us talking, we'll take it. But we want to talk to you. We want to hear what you think. We want a bit of a discussion. So we're going to keep this very loose. But we start off with a little bit of a presentation because it gets the grey cells going. Now, at the weekend, I was involved in this presentation called News Not in the News. It was up in Stoke. There's a couple of people in the room who came up. It was organised by Carl Sims from Namaste magazine. And if you haven't seen that before, you can find Namaste magazine's website on the internet without too much trouble. And Carl produces a magazine which has been talking for many years about things happening, unusual things, and he's been trying to get people interested in learning and the alternative news. So this was a talk that was put on. We had a number of speakers, including two ladies that came across from the States, one called Judith Reisman, and she's been talking about despicable things happening to children and why it's happening and what the background is. And I'm going to say, well, she did a tremendous presentation. I've actually got a copy of what she talked about. And what I'm going to do is put up just a couple of her slides to get you thinking. There was another lady called Charlotte Isaby. So both these two had flown over from the States. Charlotte, very interesting, because she worked in the heart of the American administration some years ago. I won't say how many, but some years ago. And she'd worked out for herself that something was pulling America down, that day by day something was eating away at the America she knew, and basically she came to the conclusion it was subversion, that the country was being dismantled from the inside. And she's a remarkable lady. She's continued to battle and give speeches, and at one stage, I'm going to say, I asked both these ladies if we were winning. And they said to me, winning? Of course we're not winning. And I said, oh dear, well, we might as well go home. And then there was a bit of an atmosphere, and we hadn't met each other long. And they told me all the reasons why we weren't winning. And then I said, well, I think you've been doing the right thing for very many years, but the timing was wrong because people hadn't woken up. And now we're in a phase where people are waking up. Your message is the message we need to hear. And then all of a sudden we got the discussion going in a positive way. So that really is a theme. People are becoming awake, and if we do the right thing now, they're going to wake up even quicker. The other speakers, you can see when this goes live, when News Not in the News is live on the internet, and we'll make sure you know about that. But there were other speakers talking about the monetary system, the British Constitution. So it was a good day. And I'm just going to show you, hopefully, okay, some of the things that I brought across. So this is a key thing which I know many of you here have heard me talk about before, but something isn't right. And this is a copy of the latest edition of the UK column. And it's a little bit dark with this projector, but we've got the riots up in London, we've got the phone hacking scandal, we've got the stock market falling, and we've got Cameron there who's supposed to be in control of the country, but of course he isn't. He's a puppet. He's being told what to do. Now, we felt we needed to carry a message on this paper, so we came out with a wartime message of keep calm and carry on, because we have some very, very dangerous people now controlling the country. They are starting to really hurt people, and they're starting to pull the country apart. But we need to keep calm, because this bit, the violence up here, is what they want. Absolutely what the government wants. And they want it because if they can introduce this violence onto the streets, and they've got everybody at each other's throats, they've got the Christians and the Muslims fighting, and the blacks and the whites, and the Scottish and the Irish duffing up the English, and then we've got the Poles in there somewhere, and a few Russians, and a few Ethiopians, and a few Bangladeshis. If they can get that mix fighting each other, we lose. So what we are continually putting out is that if we're going to fight the real criminals, and the criminals are in government, we have to keep people calm, and we have to keep them working together. And I'm going to say to you, I've been absolutely stunned at some of the messages that we've had into the UK column over the last 2 weeks, and I am not making this up. People calling in, and they basically say, we've worked it out. And you say, what have you worked out? Well, they want us to fight. They want us to get annoyed with the mosques. They want us to get annoyed with this. And you say, absolutely. Because if the violence starts on the street, in comes all of the police state measures, the curfews. Yeah? So I pushed that one because we felt it was so important. Has anybody seen what the stock market's been doing today? It's falling. All right? And people we're talking to in the City of London, we've got banking people who now talk to us, and they are saying that if you go out for a pint of beer lunchtime in the city pubs, they are all saying it's just a matter of when this financial system crunches. It's going to come down. The euro is going to fall. And as a result of that, we've got some interesting things being said. Last weekend, the finance minister for Poland went live on TV, and he said that he'd been told by European world bankers that if we couldn't sort out the mess, the monetary mess in Europe, there would be war in Europe within 10 years. So now we've got to the stage that these people are talking about war. Now it's very interesting because I had a call from a friend this morning, and he said, Brian, I've got a story for you. And the story is that he was waiting for a train at a train station. The train was late, and he got talking to a group of people. And he said, we were just chatting about things. They'd been over to Italy. And then we were talking about what was going on in UK. And then he said, one of the ladies who'd been quite quiet joined in the conversation. She was Italian. She said that she worked in government in Italy. And she then said something which floored him. She said, in Italy, we are being told that there will be civil war in UK inside 2 years. Now, I'm going to say to you, I can assure you, my friend didn't make up the story. He told you exactly what he was told. And I have no reason to believe that somebody from Italy would go to the trouble to make up a story like that on the station platform in UK. My senses tell me that the people we're up against absolutely want to reduce us to this status, and it's our job to stop them, and we're going to stop them, but it's how we do it. So we all know there's a lot of stuff going on. Fraud, corruption. I had the dubious pleasure of being in a family court again yesterday to witness what went on in that court. It was disgusting. Of course, I can't talk about it in detail because I'd be put in prison because they're a secret court. It's a star chamber. But what I witnessed was the court, the public officials ganging up on a couple in order to take their child away. It was obscene. But the only way you can see it is to go inside the court, and of course they restrict the public from going in. But the corruption here is not just financial corruption, it's to do with what's in the court. Pornography. This is a major tool that's being used by the other side. And it takes a while to understand quite how this works, but Judith Reisman's talk, which was about Kinsey and the work on Kinsey on human sexuality, just phenomenal. As she shows the trail from this man starting his work supposedly on human sexuality to the fact that he is promoting child pornography and paedophilia. And we now know and can prove that his work is being used as baseline work within material teaching children's services people today.
We have the DVD of it, Brian.
Pardon?
We have the kids' DVD.
Yeah, there is a little video on the internet about it, but this is a very, very horrible, serious subject. But basically, we are seeing young people pulled apart by either watching the stuff or imitating it. And if you haven't gone on the internet and had a look at some of the Lady Gaga videos, I suggest you do, because there are now people who are analysing what she's actually doing in her routines on stage. And it's fascinating. Child abuse, okay. We got Big Brother coming in more and more. We've seen all the CCTV cameras. One of the streets we came along as we came into Bournemouth has got a phenomenal metallic mast with lots of cameras on it. Codex. How many of you know what Codex is? Okay, brilliant. It's not something that I talk about. For those of you who don't know, this is total control of food products and health products. And at the conference, a lady called Duane, who's heavily involved in the alternative medicines and herbal medicines, talked to us about what they are doing to force natural foods and remedies off the shelves. And one of the things was that if you're dealing in alternative products, herbal products, in the States they were starting to push that you had to be charged an $80,000, I think it was, license fee for each product. There's no small business can sustain that. So what they're now starting to do is force this control. And if you look at foodstuffs in supermarkets, the first Codex stamped stuff is starting to appear on the supermarket shelves. And you and I will only be allowed to eat what the government says we can, and it's going to be rubbish food. We're torturing people. We've seen the wars. Cameron, with his cronies, attacked Libya. It's an act of war, of absolute war. There was no debate. Whose authority did he launch an attack on this foreign country? We don't know. This is very, very serious stuff. Vaccines, well, there's a lot of talk about vaccines now because people just cannot, people are working out that the vaccines are not just a question of helping people. It's also a question of the fact that the vaccine itself is doing damage. And the evidence for that was presented at the conference. You all right, Margaret?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, there isn't a jug of water there, is there?
No, there isn't, no. Oh, okay. Yeah, so people are beginning to see the evidence now that vaccines are not doing what we're told they are there for. Not my specialist area. Agenda 21, regionalisation, happening in UK, it's happening in Europe, it's happening in Africa, it's happening in the States. All the old structures being swept away, the states in America being replaced by American regions. If you don't believe it, look it up for yourself. Where's it taking us to this one world government? And what is the one world government? It's a dictatorship. It's socialist, if you want to call it one broad sense. But all of the evidence is that what we're seeing happen to us in UK is part of a small jigsaw. Something very big and very nasty is on its way. Now, before we all get depressed, I'll just mention an Egyptian gentleman called Mohammed, who lives in Plymouth. And when we took him up to the day in Birkenhead, which was an incredible day, it took him up. It was on the way back from that day. We had a discussion in the car about what was happening. And I was intrigued that somebody who is Egyptian by birth and a Muslim by religion said to us very calmly, do you know, guys, if we sort this problem out in England, we will solve the problem for the whole world. And I said, do you really believe that? And he said, absolutely, because it doesn't matter where you go in the world, people still look to England and Britain for the lead in democracy. And for me, this was an incredibly powerful statement. And then he said, but I tell you what, you've got a little bit to learn by how the demonstrators organised themselves in Egypt. And when we said, what is that? He said, well, you can do a lot without being so heavily dependent on the internet. So, interesting little discussion, but the problems in this country, if you say, where is all this rubbish coming from? It's coming from this country. The City of London, to keep it simple, the bankers, the international bankers, we sort it out here, the rest follows. Well, this sort of sums it up really, doesn't it? I just find the BBC disgusting at the moment because they have made they've made a sort of, I don't know what you call it really. They've shown war and people being killed and maimed and mutilated as though it was entertainment, and then they've tried to say that this man is bad. Well, I'm not going to say he's good, But originally, Mr. Blair was prepared to actually do deals. I think JP Morgan was involved, including the paper. So we had Mr. Blair, while he was Prime Minister, going over to see Gaddafi and cuddling him and kissing him and warmly praising his regime. And now all of a sudden, we've got Mr. Gaddafi being hunted as a result of an act of war by Britain and NATO countries. So if I look at this picture, this is the man who's the hypocrite to me. Yeah? But we don't see this being commented on. We don't see it appearing in the national press. And why is that? Because the press is being controlled. Yeah? Well, this is just a little tweak on these vitamins from Codex Alimentarius. I found this, thank you to whoever produced it. I don't know who produced this image. But basically, they were just warning that the good old ways of producing natural food, where people were fed and they were well because they were eating the right diet, this is on the way out. And so I just put that up there as a little thing. These people worked very hard, but at least they could eat proper. Whereas now we've got people who are working unbelievably hard, but they can't even get proper food. We need to do something. And this is what's going on now. Very small babies, as soon as we can get hold of them, we're going to start sticking needles in with vaccines and the fluid that's containing the actual vaccine itself, which many, many people are now saying is directly harmful. And we've got a phenomenal rise in autism and similar things which people are attributing back to the vaccines. And unfortunately, it's no longer a question of being safe with mum, because it depends whether mum gives in to the vaccine regime. So, where does it lead? Well, this is where it goes on a bit. You might not be able to see that at the back, but this is a little group of school children, and they're getting their sex education lessons. And of course, the government was just backed down a bit for going for 5-year-olds again. But what we're seeing in schools is more and more graphic sex education. And we're not simply talking heterosexual sex, we're talking the full issue, including teaching small children the joys of anal sex. I'm very happy to debate that topic if anybody wants to. And this is not being done in order to protect these children, it's actually being done to affect the way they think. So that when they grow up, we're not solving a problem of unwanted pregnancies, we're actually creating a problem of promiscuity. Where does it lead to? Well, it leads to this. So this was a while ago, but this young lad at 13 had fathered a baby. And if we talk to more mature people, choose my words carefully, of course, there's always been unwanted pregnancies, but we're seeing something new now in that children are being encouraged that anything and everything goes. And if you say to me, where are we headed? The government, wants to make paedophilia legal and normal. And we are seeing more and more documentation heading in this direction. And that is also happening in countries overseas. That is where they're heading. Now, this is a subject which I've brought up, and it just dropped into talks on many occasions, and I haven't really dwelt on it, but this was sent to me. This is a piece of artwork from St Helens, and I've actually got a better picture on the computer, which I'll show you later, but this is a young girl's face, and we know this girl is about 9 years old, and do you see what it is? Or do I have to help you? It's a phallus. All right? A person would be that high at the bottom. So this thing is absolutely massive. Now, I was intrigued because a man sent it in to me because he said, I was watching some of your videos where you were talking about this perverted artwork. I think you should know about this one. And I phoned him up and I had a really interesting conversation with him, because he said, Brian, after watching one of your videos, I suddenly started to see this stuff everywhere. And if you go out, and I guarantee you it's in Bournemouth, you will see artwork that is perverted, depressing, meaningless. You know, you look at it and what is this thing? If you go up to the Wirral, there's a roundabout that's got these giant metal clowns. Well, what's that about? This is stuff which is designed to play around with your mind, and it's not about uplifting art. This is about artwork which is designed to depress you. In Plymouth, we've got totem poles, we've got birds, we've got rugged, jagged metal, very unpleasant stuff. You go up in Trafalgar Square, there's a giant ship in a bottle, which is so big, it turns the whole scene into a sort of cartoon. And this is deliberate, it's all designed to play around with your mind. Now, we've been fighting for Anne and Holly Gregg for some time. If you don't know about them, Holly is Down syndrome, and she's a young lady now, but in her earlier life she was raped and abused by a gang of paedophiles in the Aberdeen area that included people from the establishment, so we're talking judges, policemen, etc. And at the moment the courts are working to separate these two, because there's been so much publicity that the establishment now wants to silence Holly because she's got a very good memory as to who did what. Now, I've said on several occasions, not one MP has volunteered to come out of the woodwork and help this mother and daughter. And some people have corrected me and said John Hemming's done a bit, and I'm saying to you, no, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. Not one MP has come out of the woodwork to look at the evidence and to actually help bring justice for this family. Now, what that tells me is that we have a parliament full of MPs who condone the rape and abuse of children. And their usual excuse is, oh, it didn't happen in my constituency. Yeah. There is a code that I can't deal with something that happened in another constituency. So you can have rape and murder and any other crime happening, but MPs can't deal with it because there's a gentleman's code of conduct. The criminals are in Parliament. And this is going to continue, and I'll show you some figures in a minute, unless we deal with it. So, why would they do that? Why would people play around with children? Can anybody tell me how many children there are in care in the UK at the moment? 80,000. Yeah, it's somewhere between 60 and 80,000. Can anybody tell me how many children disappear a year in Britain? Pardon? Okay, I've got no official figures, and
100,000.
Yeah, 100,000. From the work we've been doing, we're looking at 150,000. But the key bit is there's no official figures. If I go into a small police station in Devon, there's a poster on the wall that says 15 children disappear in the Devon and Cornwall Police District every day. Sir?
We attended a lecture by calling police performers over the Jersey and Guernsey missing children scandal. This was one of the guys that actually investigated. His lecture touched on it, and it was very sanitised. He said they weren't children's dolls, they were coconuts, coconut husks and so on. I didn't choose to assert for various reasons. I didn't want to draw attention to myself, but that's just, I mentioned, just to show how deep the corruption goes. Yeah, okay, thank you for that. You can test this yourself by actually trying to find out what the statistic is. But we know that there's between, we know for certain there's between 60 and 80,000 children being cared for at the moment, and on average they're taking 10,000 children a year from families. And if you say to me, oh, well, there's no smoke without fire, there must have been something that's gone on. Of course, that's true in some families, but I've been there myself. I've gone into court with families to see what goes on. There are other people in the room who've done this as well. And what we are seeing is the state taking the children. And so you say, well, okay, Brian, why would they do this? Well, this is a sum which I'll take you through. And this was just some data from Bristol. But Bristol City Council paid $733,000 for 30 children to be cared for 6 months.
And that went to the foster care associates, so they're on good money. I've said that there's 60,000 children in care, which is 2,030 groups, at 1.4 million a year. So the final figure you come out for the cost of a few places for the children in UK is 2.8 billion. 2.8 billion. Now, another gentleman, I think actually it was David Noakes, credit where it's due, David had a look at the figures for the legal teams, and he came out with a figure of 20 billion as to how much they were making through the courts and the law firms and the QCs and the barristers and the solicitors and the psychologists and the psychiatrists and the psychotherapists and the care system. They were just making that through the courts. This is just to show you what children are worth for being cared for. So any child is worth millions of pounds. And if you say to me, why are they doing this? I'll say to you, the principal thing is for the money. Children are a commodity to be bought, used, abused as required. Yeah? I wish I could have taken you all into court with me yesterday, because if you had been there in the public gallery, of course there wasn't a public gallery, but if you'd been there, you would have been shocked to hear what the lady judge had to say. She talked about views. That is your view. And we gently said we thought the court was about truth and evidence. We asked her if she understood the law, and she said she did, but I'm pretty confident she didn't. But essentially, against the parents, you had a lawyer for the local authority, and you had a lawyer representing the guardian, and they worked together. It's obvious. Yeah? So I can only give you a snapshot, but if you really want to understand how bad things are in UK at the moment, you've got to look at what's happening to the children. And then you say, well, is this a new phenomena? Is this something that suddenly popped out the woodwork? And I'm going to say to you, it's not. Now, we got hold of a very interesting book recently. I'll read a bit of this, because you probably can't read it at the back. But this is talking about English settlements in America. And in 1615, they already had a labour shortage. And in 1617, the London Common Council and the Virginia Company considered sending vagrant children to Virginia. We got a bit of a labour shortage, so in 1619, they rounded up the first 100 vagrant children and they went to Virginia. And it was such a success, hold on a sec, it was such a success that they planned a second group. Some people opposed it, 1620, but the Privy Council on the 31st of January authorised it. Now the Privy Council is significant, because if you say to me, where is some of the seat of the dirt in this country, and you say who makes the decision, it comes down to the Privy Council. And Privy, it's secret. And you've got Privy Councillors and you've got MPs who are allowed into the Privy Council, and we don't really know what these people are doing. And it was the same then, but they sent more child migration, and they sent another 100 children to America. And in 1622, when there was an Indian massacre of the settlers, 350 settlers died, they sent out another 100 children. And what I was fascinated to see on Barnardo's website a couple of days ago was that somebody was following the genealogy of some brothers and sisters who were split up. There were 5 siblings, 2 girls, 3 boys. The girls stayed in Britain, but the boys were sent to Canada to a work programme. Now what was interesting was at the time that they were sent there, I noticed that legislation in this country had already banned child labour. But these children were sent to Canada. And I just thought, were they making money out of these children? How many of you followed a post office van? Nobody been behind it? What's on it? Yeah, what's on the back of the post office van?
Doesn't it say please follow this van?
Could do, but it also says Royal Mail proud to support Bernardo's. I find that very interesting because most people pay their money for the service of the post, and it's their own decision where money goes to charity. But at the moment, we've got the post office teamed up with Bernardo's. I don't know what it means, but I'm suspicious. You had a question, one more question at the back.
I'm not very good at the lingo. What do you mean by vagrant children? I'm not very good at that.
Well, basically orphans, children living rough on the streets. Street kids. Yeah. So if we start to dig in deeper, and I'm not giving you a talk on common purpose, I'm going to say a few words about it. But this was, who's this guy? Brown. He's giving a sort of Nazi salute there, which is appropriate, really. But I think this is the Telegraph. Some of you have seen this before, but these two guys were both talking about their common purpose. And if you listen to the news and you look at the newspaper, you'll see more and more this little phrase, common purpose, coming up.
Can I just say something?
Yeah.
In Poole, it's about 5 miles from here. You look at the local council website, everything's doing this for the common purpose. Everything, we're building a better future for Poole, for a common purpose, blah, blah, blah. It's all
Yeah. Well, the common purpose is the drive to the New World Order. I've done other talks on that, and there's a talk I did, where was it, in Kent, where I did an update on common purpose, and I took it all the way through. I've got to sort of advertise that talk, because I can't give you all of this stuff in one go. But basically, I thought, how can I do something different on common purpose? So what I decided to do was just use their words. So my talk was not me saying this, common purpose said this. And it went down really well, because people said, we can't believe this charity is doing it. And common purpose is now into Hungary. And Julia Middleton's got a new video out. She's in a very smart suit. She can't give a talk properly because she's shuffling bits of paper, but she's a future leader. And she's telling that audience in Hungary what they're going to be doing. She says something quite interesting. She says to them, when you're asked about common purpose, you will stumble and bumble and you won't be able to give a very clear answer. So these are people who've just been through the common purpose course, and she tells them, when you're asked about it, you won't be able to answer properly because you'll stumble and hesitate. But I'll tell you what common purpose is. Common purpose is about leading outside authority. It's about joining in networks. You'll be able to work with our network in UK. Now this is a very interesting bit of common purpose, because when she's telling them you won't be able to answer the question, she is telling them. This is NLP at work. She's telling that audience, when you're asked what common purpose is, you will stumble. You won't be able to answer it. It's an amazing piece of text. We're going to get it properly edited. But this common purpose is guys at this level and the bankers backing them, working for this new world government. And before you can create the new, you've got to destroy the old. And that's what we're starting to experience. Everything's being pulled down. How can I prove it simply? Well, I get a lot of material sent to me, and sometimes, simple things come, and it's gold dust. A man sent me 3 pieces of paper. It was from the National School of Government. Have you all heard of that? You should do, because more and more people in the public sector, so Bournemouth Council, the top-notch people would have been educated by the National School of Government. Yeah? And the National School of Government is pumping neuro-linguistics into them. Don't believe me on NLP, go and look it up. They are giving people courses where they are changing their belief structures. Now, this paragraph, shall I read it out? Okay. In facilitating change, we aim to create a spirit which is dynamic, open, colourful, cooperative and flexible. The dynamics spring from a love of diversity, with the coming together of differences producing an array of new and unique ideas. The focus is not confined to producing short-term agreements and results, but broadened to create sustainable conditions for vibrant, colourful and exciting ideas to materialise. Have you all got that? Do you understand what it means? No. The point is that you either don't understand it or you look at it and you say, what is that? Now this is the opening paragraph for a one-day workshop on equality and diversity in marine management. All right? So this was at the top of the page. Down the page, you got a clue for what these people were doing, because there was this statement. In the course, amongst other things, you will gain an understanding of what makes an inclusive organisation and how my unconscious biases may impact on my behaviour. So the people running that course were not just dealing with people's conscious minds, they were dealing with their subconscious minds. Now, I am telling the absolute truth that over the last month, and it is quite uncanny, Plymouth office, but also Roger's experience in this, people are calling in, calls are going up, and they're saying, we are seeing people not acting normally. I dealt with somebody in my local council. They were very aggressive. They wouldn't answer my question. It was like I was talking to a robot. We are getting more and more people talking about this. People in hospitals, the police, people in local authorities, people in universities. And the reason for it is that through organisations like the National School of Government and universities, when people innocently do a course, they are having their subconscious minds interfered with. Now, if anybody's sitting there in the audience thinking this is nonsense, you go onto the internet and you research it yourself. There are some entertainers who've been on TV hypnotising people. Yeah, we're all used to seeing hypnotists at work. This is hypnosis, but it's very, very subtle.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
At the job centre, when you go to sign on, they look you straight in the eye, fiercely, for a long time, very kind of hypnotic. Have you ever heard of any kind of dealings with the job centres and this really linguistic kind of hypnosis?
I can't show you documents, but I have got other people who are recounting that when they've been to the job centre, they said it was not a nice experience. I was treated like dirt. And of course, what are they allowing the job centres to do? It's only just happened in the last couple of weeks. When you go to a job centre, they're doing something else now. You can get food parcels from them. Okay? So if you're out of work, these people control your whole life, because if you're not out looking for work 12 hours a day, they're also going to feed you or not feed you. And the aggressive behaviour, you can see this in police. I've been into an interview room into one of the police stations in Plymouth with two other people, a lady and a gentleman, and we were there to say that a 3-month-old baby was going to be abused. And the sergeant got unbelievably aggressive with us and then said, "Get out of my interview room. We've just come to report a crime that's going to take place. Get out." So I didn't get up quite as fast as the others, and I just said to him, "Who's your superior officer?" And then all of a sudden it went a little bit quiet, but we had to get out the interview room, and eventually we got summoned back in. We were reporting perjury in a family court. When we later went to report that the child had been abused, and we were dealing with a lady police sergeant, she said to us at one point, "And you haven't even made an appointment." So we were there to report a crime concerning a 3-month-old baby, and we were being chastised because we hadn't made an appointment. And when we got outside, the lady who was with me said that woman was off her head. And she was. And what they are doing is this NLP. There are versions of it, but this is a clue. You often see these statements and you think, what are they on about? And the reason is that when you start to mess around with people's subconscious like this, what they do to them is they're making them feel very good about themselves. Yeah? You don't want people to feel depressed as a result of what you've done. You give them something, they feel, I'm a new leader. I understand more than the ordinary person. The ego goes up. Yeah? And the people they really can work on are people who've got big egos, they're narcissists. Narcissistic personality disorder. Now, if you look at our politicians, you can just see these people. They are puffed up, they think they're unbelievably important, they're only concerned with their image, how much money they've got 2 houses, they've got to have 4 houses. Yeah? So the people recruited into Parliament are being selected so that the system can play around with their minds. How do we know that this is actually happening? Well, David Cameron went public some time ago and said that everybody who got involved with the Conservative Party was going to do a psychometric test. Why do they want the psychometric test? Because they can then identify the right personality to join the team. So this is real. So this was one page. I'll just give you a bit of the other one. This is key. Here's the pre-course questionnaire. This is so that they can work out, before you get in that classroom, what type of person you are. And here it's saying, how would you describe your values, beliefs and attitudes? This is personal stuff. What you actually believe about a lot of things is not other people's business, it's your business. But here we've got them dragging it out. If you get this stuff out in the open, they can then decide how to work on you in a classroom to skew your beliefs. And what I keep saying is, if you think that you're too smart to fall for this, the more intelligent you are, the more open your mind is, the more susceptible. So if I said to you, I'm sure that you, like me, think that we should deal with this. Are you happy with that statement? Would you agree? That I'm sure that you all, like me, think that we should deal with this. Do you think we should deal with it? Right. I'm just giving you a little taster, because what I'm doing is playing with you. What did I say first? I gave you an order. You like me. And then I moved on to the question. But your conscious brain is ready for that question. So you know almost what's coming. You anticipated it. So you missed the first bit. You like me. That just disappeared. Not in your subconscious. Now, I'm beginning to learn, because I've got NLP trained practitioners who are coming to me with information because they are getting very, very worried, because they can see techniques that they've used to help people being used for devious political purposes. Now, I want to mention something unpleasant. Sorry, we'll get somewhere nice at the end. Bridgend in South Wales. How many suicides? How many?
32, I think.
It's over 40 now, according to the information we have. And it's still happening, but they're not reporting it in the press, because they've now decided that if they report it in the press, it encourages copycat suicides. So right, I'm just going to keep going, sir. Right, so basically you are seeing people commit suicide. Aberdeen, a man contacts me and he said, do you know it's bad up here, Brian? We're over 90. We're 92 in 3 years. Now, I've got documentation, the Soviet art of brainwashing, which you can get off the internet. If you read it, it says one of the objectives of the breakdown of society is to make suicide a normal and accepted part of society. And it's starting to happen. Now, nasty subject, but this was wonderful for me. I got a call a few days ago by a man who said, Brian, do you want to know what's causing the suicides in Bridgend? And I said, I would love to know, because I've got lots of different ideas from people. And he said, well, I'll tell you, they're brainwashing the kids. And I said, that sounds interesting, because we're looking at this aspect. He said, if you follow it through, these kids are being given all sorts of weird stuff, including common purpose. Now, at the moment, I haven't seen the evidence this man's put forward, but talking to him, he was seeing all sorts of stuff. He described a small village where he was particularly interested that the post office had closed, the village shop had closed, but their village hall had received a £600,000 grant from the Welsh Assembly and European Union money. And now they were running funny little dance and music and creative drama classes for children in that hall. And he said, I haven't worked it out yet, Brian, but for a small hall to get a grant of £600,000, something weird is going on. But we've got to understand what's going on in this country. And basically, normally, if the girls are going to top themselves, they take drugs or cut their wrists. And the boys are going to do it, they hang themselves. But what's been happening in Bridgend is girls have been hanging themselves. So not only is the number of suicides unnatural, the manner in which they do it is unnatural. Yeah? Now, this is just somebody's observation, but it's an interesting one. I don't watch X Factor because I think it's designed to dumb my brain down. But a friend of mine watched it, and he said that they were recruiting or doing the auditions in the southwest, so they were taking people from South Wales, and he said several of them said they were from the Bridgend area. And he said it might have been my imagination, but they were all very strange people. And the impression I got is that what the TV was trying to do was implant in our minds that people who come out of Bridgend are weird. Now, I don't know whether this guy was right, but I was very intrigued with his observation. But you talk to people in South Wales, and there's virtually no families who are unaffected, because if they don't know the relation that's been involved, there's a friend who's got a relation who's involved. Something very, very nasty and sinister is going on, and something is causing these young teenagers to do what they're doing. A man showed me a video clip yesterday. Sorry, have you started again? A man showed me a video clip yesterday of a pop group. I can't remember their name, but when you actually just listened and watched properly, the words were, we are leaders who need to kill ourselves if we don't want to lead a dysfunctional society. So the message in that little pop video was actually to kill yourself. Now, is this stuff a coincidence, or is it coming from somewhere? It's coming from somewhere. Now, this is what a lot of people think tyranny is. This is a very charming Chinese police lady. And of course, we all think China's wonderful at the moment, don't we? And I don't know what this lady's done, but she's not in for a good time. So many people just think that it's this. It's sort of the police state bit. But the real danger... Oh, come on. The real danger is this. The ultimate tyranny in society is not controlled by martial law. It's controlled by the psychological manipulation of consciousness, through which reality is defined so that those who exist within it do not even realise that they're in a prison. You look at people now addicted to the computers and the TVs, and that's become their world. And they can't see, they do not even realise that there is something outside of where they exist. So this is what a lot of the digital age is doing. We've all been victims of it. But if you're watching 8 hours of TV a day and those programs are getting steadily more ghastly, so you don't just see the autopsy from a distance. Have you noticed the bodies are now on the autopsy table and you see the blood or the brains? Have you not seen these programs? Because this is mainstream television. Yeah, there are some very, very nasty programs, and this is what they're doing, is they're after our minds. So the first secret to getting out of this thing is to show other people what's actually happening to them. Now, I said at the conference on Saturday, why were we here? And it's the same for this evening. The true seeker of knowledge naturally strives for truth and is not content with common opinion, but soars with undimmed and unwearied passion until he grasps the essential nature of things. So basically we need to find out for ourselves, because once we understand it, we can do something about it. This is pretty important. Now I think I'll just go on to, well, that was thanks to Namaste magazine as well. So this is the key bit. We can't see what we can't fight and we can't understand. Yeah? Now, Roger's here with me tonight, so I didn't want to hog the floor too much. And we also wanted to see whether we could have a good dose of interaction with you. But I just want to show you 2 slides from Judith, who was talking about what Kinsey was up to. So this is a table where it's got the age of children starting at 5 months going down to 10 years. This is the number of orgasms that they are supposed to have had. The times were taken, okay, here's the age, right, coming up to 14. So it's examples of multiple orgasm in pre-adolescent males. 4 years old, 26 in a 24-hour period. Hang on, can I just keep going, sir, yeah? Now, these statistics, which are now starting to be revealed, we know that Kinsey was taking his evidence from paedophiles. So the whole database of this information on people and their sexuality and sex lives was fraudulent. And it involved, if you think it through, this is actually the torture of children. Now, this material has not been just left on a shelf. This material is now actually being used to form the foundation for what people are being taught in social services and child services. And it's particularly coming into the universities. Margaret?
I think, if I remember correctly, Kinsey tried to get a baby to have 24 orgasms in 24 hours.
Yeah.
And he was tickling it with a feather.
Well, in Judith Reisman's book, Sexual Subversion, which is obviously, it's available on the internet, it's harrowing reading, but when you read it, all of a sudden, you can see what's been done to us, because she charts the whole change in people's behaviour, how marriages started to break down, how people got into serial relationships, how they started to experiment with their sexuality. She really started to bring some of this stuff home. Sorry, wait a minute, I might have jumped to one, hold on.
The definition of orgasms are not what we would assume today.
No, but we know from the book, we know from the research that's been done around it, that these were arbitrary definitions made to suit the work. So in the book, these tables she is putting in to show you that there was a scientific regime at work. And this stuff is still being promoted. If you go and look at Kinsey on the internet, I'll take it off now, but if you go on the internet, you can go to the Kinsey site and you can see that they're still supporting this work. Yes?
Just an observation, but Kinsey was a follower of Stoke the Satanist.
Yeah. Did you hear that at the back? That Kinsey was a follower of Aleister Crowley, the Satanist.
And Aleister
Yeah.
Crowley stated that he wished to debag every boy in Britain.
Yeah. Okay.
Kinsey also worked with one of the, I don't know whether you mentioned it, it might have been one of the German doctors who worked in the concentration camps doing experiments on people.
This is true. Well, I'm just going to stop the subject here because I've put it up. If we look at how we get forward, how do we get out of the mess we're in? And I'm going to say Roger and myself and the other people who are out in the circuit talking, it was all a question, how do you wake people up? And aside from all the other things going on, whether it's taxes or the European Union or the police state, the one thing which you can see is coming up to the surface is that something very nasty is going on with the nation's children. And we're now at the stage where no child is safe. Because something can happen at school. If the schools report it to child services, immediately the parents are in the weaker position. It's quite extraordinary. And we have a lady in the room who spent some time in prison recently because she tried to expose what was happening in one particular case in the family courts. So this system, you can see, you know something's going on because they are desperate to keep secret what's actually happening with these children. And wherever you go, we cannot find at the moment any senior officials or ministers who are prepared to help expose the truth. So either they know and they're scared. Well, you could say they don't know. Sorry, I don't believe that. There's too much out there. You can say they're too scared to do something, and I could believe that. But the others, they know. They absolutely know what's going on because the whole of the state machinery is starting to move forward to gain these children. So, in waking people up, what do you got to do? You've got to talk about it. And I always say this because it's so easy. Just tell somebody else. And the analogy I gave in Stoke was basically, how many of you seen the chessboard? I can't remember, it's a fable or a story from very many years ago where somebody had to pay a debt, and when they were asked how they wanted the debt paid, they said a chessboard with 1 grain of rice or 1 grain of wheat on the first square and 2 on the second square and 4 on the third square. That was, and the person said that's not a problem. But when you actually work that out, by the time you get to the 64th square, you're dealing with several thousand tons of grain. And what I'm saying is, if you just keep talking to a couple of people every day, this message is starting to spread. People are talking about what's happening with money. They are talking about jobs being lost. They are starting to talk about the fact society's not right. And they are talking a lot about people in positions of authority not acting properly. And this is because they've had their minds interfered. So if you want to know what to do about it, just talk to other people. That's the key thing. I had an invite over to the Isle of Man 3 weeks ago, something like that. It was a wonderful visit because there was a really great group of people over there. But when it came down to why they'd invited me, some of them had been watching videos, but they said, some of your talks, you're talking about things happening in society. What you've talked about has happened here in the last 2 or 3 years. So if you're living on the Isle of Man, they're going back just 5 years and their life was normal, and now all of a sudden, bang, 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 something's happening and it's not normal. And I'll give you a little example. A gentleman said to me, he said, there was a very, very strange piece of artwork appeared. And we got curious because it cost quite a lot of money. So we asked, one particular councillor asked, who authorised it? And the officer, so the paid member of the council, said, we can't tell you. We said, what do you mean you can't tell? We're spending public money on this piece of artwork. I'd like to know who started it, who actually asked for it. We can't tell you. Data protection. So the man elected, in order to represent individuals and the community, was being told by the council officers that he couldn't be told who had started the expenditure on the weird artwork. And you say, why? Why would they be so, why are they so secretive? And that's the clue that there's something about the artwork which is not quite straightforward. So the man pressed the matter, and then what happened to him? He got a warning for inappropriate behaviour in questioning an officer about what started the project. So the man who dared to ask the question about the artwork became the victim. And this is the other side at work, turning everything on its head. We then had a very interesting chat because 4 years ago I got an invite over to Jersey, and I was recounting what the people in Jersey had told me, because if it's just happening in the Isle of Man, it happened over about a 10-year period for Jersey. So they said Jersey was very happy up until about 10 years ago. Suddenly, public officials were parachuted in from UK mainland. And we said we knew this was weird because we got a protection policy on house and jobs. And you're not supposed to get a house over here unless you've got relatives or you've worked in Jersey for a particular length of time. Suddenly, in came these very highly paid civil servants, 120 grand, 150 grand, and they started making the rules to change our lives. And when you try and stand up against them, you get threatened. And that was the basis I was invited over to give a talk. And I met a very interesting, it was a private meeting, but a small group of people I met in a room. And they told me all the things that they'd experienced happening in Jersey. And one of the things they told me was that Jersey was in a happy position of having, I think the figure was 600 million in the bank. They hadn't got any worries about money because they'd run their little that sounds a bit demeaning, I don't mean that. They'd run the Jersey economy properly, and they'd made a profit, and they'd saved that money, and they were 600 million in the black. And some of the wiser men on the island said, we should be buying gold. And they put this forward to so I want to say assembly, I can't think what it's called over there, but the parliament. And basically they were rebuffed very, very quickly. And not only given all the reasons why this couldn't be done, why it wouldn't be done. And of course the reason that the powers over there did not want them buying gold is because that would have started to safeguard the Jersey economy from what they knew, I believe, was going to happen. And it's very interesting that on the Isle of Man, 60% of the economy is through the financial sector, and several of the men over there were telling me they're seeing business after business. These are reputable people working in the finance industry and the insurance industry. They are having their businesses put out of action by the big major finance players. So the rules and regulations are increasing and increasing till people are giving up. And so they're saying that at the moment in the Isle of Man, as far as they're concerned, there's a deliberate attempt to collapse the economy. And at the same time, they're seeing all of their social and community life broken up. So we had a meeting with 20 people, and the discussion was what to do. And I said the same thing. You've now got 20 people in the room. Get out on the island and start talking to people. And that's all you've got to do. Before I finally finish and hand you over to Roger, I will take some questions. It is unbelievable, the change over the last 6 months. If I go back 7, 8 months ago, we were still feeling it was very heavy. You went out and you did talks, and it's like trying to move, a rock. Now, people sense something's wrong. And I'll give you an example. Roger and I had something to eat and a pint of beer before we came down here. We were just up at the bar. Roger had a newspaper. He pointed to Clegg. Do you all know who Clegg is? He's the puppet, yeah? And what did we say? You only ever saw Clegg or Cameron in the news. You never saw any of the other politicians. A man next to us at the bar immediately said, that's absolutely right. You never see any of the others. So we said, no, this is so that you only get the word from one person. And we said that's the start of it because there's funny stuff happening. And the next minute we're talking about money. What else do we cover? But the guy was awake and he was talking. And the moment we're talking at the bar, people behind you are listening. So if you want to know what to do, talk. That's it. Okay. Thanks very much. Any questions? Yeah, sir.
Talking about the children.
Yeah.
Is there any particular age all the children who are missing? Is there any particular age bracket that they go in, or is it all ages?
No, it's spread across all ages. It's spread across all ages. But what you have to say is that you are seeing more and more younger children taken from their families. I don't want to misquote him, but I think it was the chief executive of Bernardo's, who was quoted in the paper as saying that basically he thought more babies should be taken at a younger age for their benefit.
Cameron stated that early intervention should be speeded up for more families
Yeah.
And that means that if you take a child before the age of 5, they're building their primary brain. In other words, if you stick them with middle-class people, they might have a broad Scottish accent, but after 6 months they will speak like their masters, the uncles, the aunties, the fathers, the sisters, the government officials. They speak in their language, and they brainwash you. So if you're put in at 3, by the time you are 5, you will not know who you are or where you are.
Yeah, I would agree totally with that.
12, you run away, and the police have to bring you back, and you run away again. So they get you early and you don't know where to run.
There's an analogy there to Madeline McCann. For years, like, the real moment where a child actually develops and becomes a person, or I think of a person. Around those age, that age.
I was placed in a place called, that was run by George Muller Homes for Children, based in Bristol. They deported children to the Commonwealth right up to 1970. That's when they stopped deporting unwanted children. Now, the care system was designed by aristocrats who wanted to get rid of their children. So they'd make up false birth certificates to cover the fact that they were their children. They made sure those children would have good adoptions. If you were from the lower orders, you were basically material to be tested on as pharmaceuticals, to be tested on for Alzheimer's drugs. You had teenage girls being abused and they had boyfriends. They argued with their parents and then they got Alzheimer's drugs being tested on them. You know, it's, like you said, it's a money machine.
Yeah.
Right, Dave, but keep it brief.
Okay, just to comment to yours, part of the Jesuit creed is give us the child until he is 7 and we will give you the man.
Yeah.
Moving back to the reason why they may take these children, David comments in his books of rampant paedophilia. There is a particular energy that goes up and down the spine, almost like Vincent Price and Timber, of the abused children that appears to be useful to a certain type of being. I know we're moving into the terms of aliens and strange creatures and reptilians and all that, but he said that is the reason why paedophilia seems to be so interested. There is some form of uncorrupted energy that bursts out when the child is being abused in some way or another, generally on the spine, but somehow that is of use to a certain class of person.
Without going into, because that's quite sort of technical stuff. If we keep it simpler than that, if people want to know why paedophilia has now suddenly become, it seems to be popping up all over the place. What has gone on, very simply, is morality has been attacked. So in a normal society, most people are honest, most people are straight, and then you've got a very small percentage of people who've got problems, or they're thieves, or they're criminals, or they're, if we go to the extremes, they're murderers. Percentage per population, very small. So most people being normal, getting on with their lives, when somebody comes along who's a bit strange and deviant, they would originally spot these people very easily. But what's been happening is that basically normality is being fractured. So anything goes, how you dress, what you watch, yeah, who you sleep with, the age of the person you sleep with, where you do it, all of that has come down. So we've now got our representatives, the MPs, we know they take drugs, we know they sleep with rent boys, yeah, we know they have multiple partners, we know they're homosexual or they're bisexual, or maybe there's something else. So all this has been introduced to make it seem that it's normal. Now it becomes much more difficult to actually see who the really dangerous people are. But if you are malevolent and you want to control a society, how do you control people? Where you bully them or you blackmail them if you're nasty. It's getting difficult to blackmail somebody because you can do anything. What is left that people will in general not tolerate? Paedophilia. Now, my opinion from all the research we've done, and what's interesting is other people who are researching different areas, they're looking at money, or they're looking at the establishment, or what's happening in the public sector, and they are all coming back and saying everywhere we go, it's leading to the abuse of children. And the conclusion I come to is that basically paedophilia is being used to control the people in the positions of real power. So they are recruited, they are led into positions where, I'll call it temptation, if you want to call it that, but they're led into positions where they're entrapped, and then they are completely owned. Do I believe we've got practicing paedophiles in Parliament? Absolutely. Within the senior levels of the police force? Absolutely. Within the House of Lords? Within the judiciary? Absolutely. And I did a talk, well I didn't, I did an interview for one of the TV stations a little while ago, and a gentleman came to see me, travelled quite some way, said, "Can I have a talk with you?" And I said yes, and he said, "I'd rather go in the car park. I'd rather you left your phone." That was fine. And he told me a story about what was going on in London to do with paedophilia, child prostitution, child trafficking. And he said, "What I want to tell you about is the fact that every time the police build up cases to break these rings apart, they are stopped by their superior officers." And I said, "What does that mean?" And he said, "Well, what it means is our superior officers are being lent on to stop the investigations." Now, actually, somebody told me this story, a similar story, but he gave me a lot of detail a couple of years ago. And I said, "Well, what are the police thinking about this? Are you prepared to do something?" And he said, "Well, the trouble is mortgages, got families to think of." And I said, "Well, that's a shame." This time, this person said to me, when I asked the same question, he said, "Well, it's getting interesting because a lot of police are losing their jobs and they're not happy people." And I said, "Are they prepared to do something?" And he said, "It's better than that. They've already started." Now, this is what we've got to drive. We've got to get this lot up to the surface, because we've still got people out there who think their MPs are wonderful people. They think they're upstanding. I know, we may laugh, but there are a lot of people out there. They need exposing properly. But that's what it's to do with. It's a control mechanism. Yeah? You might also research an organisation called CARA, which we've only discovered recently. We had a warning about European, international, within Europe, child trafficking by a lady called Roly Post, who's written a book, Romania for Export Only. And she tells the story of the Romanian orphanage children being trafficked. So it wasn't just a question of bad orphanages and no money. That was a bit of a cover-up. She talks about what was really going on, which was the European Union setting up the child traffic rings. She lives under constant threat of death for what she knows about that. Okay, so CARA is very interesting. It's based in India, and it's now talking about worldwide adoption. And the UK is signed up to it. There's about 4 offices under the Department for whatever it is, Families, Children and Education. And they are talking about moving around children internationally, worldwide. So you get your child taken away from you in Doncaster, and that child is then given to a family anywhere in the world. Why are they doing it? Because they are determined to stamp out national identity. Yeah, it's incredible. Okay.
And Clive, did you want to ask
One more.
One thing about what this gentleman over here said about that energy that
Yeah.
they're after. If you look on the side of a £1 coin, it says decus et tutinum. The Latin word decus means decuscitation. The point exactly at the back of the neck is the point where the energy comes out of, and it's on the side of the £1 coin. And the people with the money have the power.
Well, I have never heard that before. Thank you for telling us that, and I'll do some research on that. Right, I'll just say we drifted back into that subject again, but I want to tell you that it is phenomenal, the change out there at the moment. People are waking up, people are starting to ask the right questions, and if you give them honest, truthful answers, they're listening. So if we want to stop this thing, just get out there and talk. And then I said, well, I think you've been doing the right thing for very many years, but the timing was wrong because people hadn't woken up. And now we're in a phase where people are waking up. Your message is the message we need to hear. And then all of a sudden we got the discussion going in a positive way. So that really is a theme. People are becoming awake, and if we do the right thing now, they're going to wake up even quicker. The other speakers, you can see when this goes live, when News Not in News is live on the internet, and we'll make sure you know about that. But there were other speakers talking about the monetary system, the British Constitution. So it was a good day. And I'm just going to show you, hopefully, okay, some of the things that I brought across. So this is a key thing which I know many of you here have heard me talk about before, but something isn't right. And this is a copy of the latest edition of the UK column. And it's a little bit dark with this projector, but we've got the riots up in London, we've got the phone hacking scandal, we've got the stock market falling, and we've got Cameron there who's supposed to be in control of the country, but of course he isn't. He's a puppet. He's being told what to do. Now, we felt we needed to carry a message on this paper, so we came out with a wartime message of keep calm and carry on, because we have some very, very dangerous people now controlling the country. They are starting to really hurt people, and they're starting to pull the country apart. But we need to keep calm, because this bit, the violence up here, is what they want. Absolutely what the government wants. And they want it because if they can introduce this violence onto the streets, and they've got everybody at each other's throats, they've got the Christians and the Muslims fighting, and the blacks and the whites, and the Scottish and the Irish duffing up the English, and then we've got the Poles in there somewhere, and a few Russians, and a few Ethiopians, and a few Bangladeshis. If they can get that mix fighting each other, we lose.
Well, good evening everybody. Welcome to you all, and especially to those who come from a great distance. East Sussex, Portsmouth, Hythe, and especially to Brian and Roger who come from Brian from Plymouth, Roger from Liverpool. It's a great pleasure to have you here, all of you here tonight. For any newcomers, I ought to tell you that we are not a political party. We do not take lists of names or addresses or write minutes, and although if you wish to join us, as I hope you will, you can leave your email address. There's a clipboard over there and one at the back on the tables there, or telephone, or leave your telephone number if you haven't an email address. We are what you might call the alternative press. The British Constitution Group aims to give you information on many subjects kept from you by the BBC, which, as a friend of mine so aptly describes as nobbled.
First of all, thank you all very much for coming. It's nice to see a lot of faces. Some of you I know, some of you I know by name, some of you are recognised, and some of you I don't know. But you'll have to put up with me, because I've now got to the stage, and Roger Hayes, who's also with me, we've got to the stage now where we meet so many people that it can get really difficult. And some people look like other people, and most people are called Mike, apparently. So I get a lot of calls, and the voice says I'm Mike, and then you say, which Mike is that? And they say, it's Mike from Sheffield, and I say, there's 4 up there, which one are you? Okay, so if we look a bit vague when you say, you know, you've met us before, it's simply the number of people. Roger, just stand up if you will. Roger Hayes is with me tonight because he's been down. Brilliant. Roger's been coming down to Plymouth for 1 week each month, which gives us a chance to have a good chat. If you don't know him, he's chairman of the British Constitution Group, and he was the man who thought the state of the judicial system was so bad that we should go and arrest a judge. If you haven't seen the little video clip on Birkenhead, just put Birkenhead arrest judge into Google and you'll come up with a film clip. And what I would say to anybody who's wondering what they've come to tonight, because I've talked about arresting judges, the best thing about that film clip is 600 people on the streets, 600 people, and absolutely no trouble. People laughing and joking with the police and talking to them. And this was a proper demonstration. So if you want to know what we're about, and British Constitution Group and Lawful Rebellion, it's about getting out there and doing things, but we don't need violence. It's a very important thing. Let me just take my watch off, which is a bit noisy. So I'm going to start. Roger's then going to talk about some of the things he's working on. And we're going to say to you, perhaps unusually, because I often talk about serious stuff all the time, we are feeling quite upbeat at the moment because it's clear that things are beginning to happen. The other side's doing things, but people are waking up. If you go and give a talk, if you're in a queue and you're perhaps gently talking about the banks, people join in the conversation. They know something's wrong. You can talk to people and they say, well, my son or my daughter doesn't have a job, or they've lost a job, or a relative's lost a job. So people are beginning to hurt with what's happening in the system, and we're watching the gas and electric prices go up, and at the same time they're talking about the coldest, a very cold October. So we're starting to see people come under pressure. This is going to increase, but I'm pleased to say that as that pressure's coming on, we're starting to see a bit of proper British spirit. So people are beginning to react. And it had to happen. We had to see people put under pressure before they'd wake up. Now, I don't often cheat, but I've cheated a bit tonight because it's been a very busy week. And what I wanted to do was give you a talk. We're going to keep it very relaxed, and I prefer questions at the end. But if there's a desperate one in the middle of us talking, we'll take it. But we want to talk to you. We want to hear what you think. We want a bit of a discussion. So we're going to keep this very loose, but we start off with a little. So what we are continually putting out is that if we're going to fight the real criminals, and the criminals are in government, we have to keep people calm and we have to keep them working together. And I'm going to say to you, I've been absolutely stunned at some of the messages that we've had into the UK column over the last 2 weeks, and I am not making this up. People calling in and they basically say, we've worked it out. And you say, what have you worked out? Well, they want us to fight. They want us to get annoyed with the mosques. They want us to get annoyed with this. And you say, absolutely. Because if the violence starts on the street, in comes all of the police state measures, the curfews. Yeah? So I pushed that one because we felt it was so important. Has anybody seen what the stock market's been doing today? It's falling. All right? And people we're talking to in the City of London, we've got banking people who now talk to us, and they are saying that if you go out for a pint of beer lunchtime in the city pubs, they are all saying it's just a matter of when this financial system crunches. It's going to come down. The euro is going to fall. And as a result of that, we've got some interesting things being said. Last weekend, the finance minister for Poland went live on TV, and he said that he'd been told by European world bankers that if we couldn't sort out the mess, the monetary mess in Europe, there would be war in Europe within 10 years. So now we've got to the stage that these people are talking about war. Now it's very interesting because I had a call from a friend this morning, and he said, Brian, I've got a story for you. And the story is that he was waiting for a train at a train station. The train was late, and he got talking to a group of people. And he said, we were just chatting about things. They'd been over to Italy. And then we were talking about what was going on in UK. And then he said, one of the ladies who'd been quite quiet joined in the conversation. She was Italian. She said that she worked in government, in a little bit of a presentation because it gets the grey cells going. Now at the weekend I was involved in this presentation called News Not in the News. It was up in Stoke. There's a couple of people in the room who came up. It was organised by Carl Sims from Namaste magazine, and if you haven't seen that before, you can find Namaste magazine's website on the internet without too much trouble. And Carl produces a magazine which has been talking for many years about things happening, unusual things, and he's been trying to get people interested in learning and the alternative news. So this was a talk that was put on. We had a number of speakers, including two ladies that came across from the States, one called Judith Reisman, and she's been talking about despicable things happening to children and why it's happening and what the background is. And I'm going to say, well, she did a tremendous presentation. I've actually got a copy of what she talked about. And what I'm going to do is put up just a couple of her slides to get you thinking. There was another lady called Charlotte Isaby. So both these two had flown over from the States. Charlotte, very interesting, because she worked in the heart of the American administration some years ago. I won't say how many, but some years ago. And she'd worked out for herself that something was pulling America down, that day by day something was eating away at the America she knew, and basically she came to the conclusion it was subversion, that the country was being dismantled from the inside. And she's a remarkable lady. She's continued to battle and give speeches, and at one stage, I'm going to say, I asked both these ladies if we were winning. And they said to me, winning? Of course we're not winning. And I said, oh dear, well, we might as well go home. And then there was a bit of an atmosphere, and we hadn't met each other long. And they told me all the reasons why we weren't winning.